If whimsicality wasn't already a word before today, then I am making it so right now. Oh hey, look at that. Hello everybody, and I am Maya, as in Mealy Maya, because it's just me, and today I am in search of whimsy. Sadly, there is not enough whimsy in my everyday life, as I would like that to be, and I am on a mission to seek out this sense of fantastical escapism and thrill of life through the critically acclaimed collection of Studio Ghibli films. While it is a studio I'm sure many clicking onto this video already know about, let me give you the drop just in case you've never heard of them before. Studio Ghibli is a Japanese animation studio founded in the 1980s by directors Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata, and produced by Toshio Suzuki. The company became renowned for its fantasy adventure stories illustrated in traditional hand-drawn animation. And according to their IMDb right now, they have a total of 24 films, which I will be watching in chronological order, starting from 1984 all the way to the most recent film released in 2023. I will be going along and ranking these films based on the pure life and whimsy of these stories, the animation itself, and the musical scoring. But most importantly, this ranking is just based purely on how much I love the film. You know, itself and the story and the morals. You get the picture. So, let's talk about it. Our first movie is Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which is a dystopian sci-fi film taking place 1,000 years after a tragedy called the 7 Days of Fire, which led to the near extinction of the human race and the Earth's ecosystem. In this world, there are 3 major factions that still populate the region as some of the last surviving settlements on this planet, and they are all under stress due to the toxic jungle they're living between. Not only is the air lethal in this jungle, but it possesses a huge plant and fungi ecosystem that attracts these abnormally gigantic insects that seem to just be absolutely aggressive to humans at first, or at least that's how they're portrayed and viewed as in society. And then with the 3 factions, or the 3 kingdoms, I guess I should say, while they are societies that operate under a monarchy, they are very technologically advanced, as opposed to some of the other films where they're very magical based or spiritually based. You know, we see things like guns, we see things like airships, aircrafts, and forms of like hand grenades. We see a little insect tuning whistle thing that we see that like charms the insects throughout the film that Nausicaa uses. Some of the things I really liked about this film is that it is very much seemingly a political commentary about human pollution on the earth and about how we should be harmonious with nature. It basically sends the message that if we take care of the earth, it will take care of us back, which is something we see towards the end of the film, and which honestly, in the time of me recording this right now, it's actually pretty topical. In my state, there is a political debacle about this AI data center looking to be built in the West, and a lot of people like myself are obviously uneasy about that and are advocating heavily against it due to the serious environmental impacts that it has. Things that come to mind, which are also referenced in this film: making the air unbreathable, making the water polluted. And yeah, this film talks about all of those things, even from the making of this film, which was back in the 1980s, I think 1984 specifically. Crazy that like 40 years later, the same message is still relevant. So ultimately, the harmony with nature, the messaging, and the morals of this film rank pretty highly for me. Another great thing about this particular film is our main girl, Nausicaa. She is a great form of representation of strong leading role models for women. She is described in like many online summaries about this film as like the warrior princess, and that's honestly valid with how intelligent, compassionate, and like physically able and strong she is in general. When she witnesses her father's death, girl shows her no mercy and slaughters a room full of armored soldiers with guns, and all she had was like this stick cane and a sword. So suffice to say, she is a girl boss. And adding on to that, Nausicaa's companion, which is the little fox squirrel we see, is one of the most adorable sidekick creatures I have ever seen in this universe. They're small, but like they're vicious. Now, for some of the things that got me in this film, and I know it's a huge part of the plot, but the bugs, man. If I got transported and plopped into this universe, this world, I'd be mortified. Which I know is the point, but I'm not feeling so whimsical about it, which is kind of my thing for this video, and also for the films I have watched from this franchise in the past. As much as I did love the story, and I love the characters like Mito and Uncle Yupa, well, he's not an uncle, but he gives kind of uncle energy. But besides all that, and the swell of the beautiful tracks, it's hard to distract me from my thing about bugs. They're cool. I am not a big lover of bugs, particularly giant ones, which would be my literal nightmare. And the fact that they topple literal civilizations, entire kingdoms, we see them, like, obviously when they're provoked, devastate an entire kingdom. That's pretty nuts. I would not feel great about living in that world. Now, this next point, it is less of a con and more just something I was befuddled by for at least the first half of this movie. There are so many shots throughout the story where I genuinely thought the protagonist was flashing the audience, because the animators poorly illustrated that she was wearing some sort of like tan legging or pants. She looks like, to me, that she's wearing some sort of long tunic with like a belt and obviously some boots, and the hem of that tunic functions as like a short skirt. So whenever we see Nausicaa up in the air or running off to jump onto a glider, I thought I was being flashed, because the coloring of the pants is like nearly the exact same as her skin tone for a majority of the film. And it's not until she's like in her village and she's like wearing her hat and stuff that we actually see she's wearing pants, because they make it more billowy and obvious as opposed to like a legging where it's to the model. And it seems like this is something a lot of people also got wrapped up on. I'm kind of glad it wasn't just me. There's like a whole Reddit forum, different online sites that talk about it too, where they're like, am I crazy? Or is this like character not wearing pants? But yeah. Castle in the Sky is the second film in the studio's filmography catalogue that follows Princess 𝙲𝚃𝚃, or as she is also called throughout the film, just simply Sheeta. She is a descendant of the ancient civilization of Laputa, which is the castle in the sky. She spends pretty much the entirety of the film outrunning both not only the military, but a gang of pirates from taking her crystal amulet, which possesses the power to locate the lost city in the sky with like a beam of light, as well as a lot of other magical properties that we get told. She can cast spells and stuff, which is pretty cool. There's a couple of similarities with this film and the previous one. We were once again using aircrafts, airships, guns again, so technology level we're still at the same place or on par, I should say. And this film and its story mainly talks about or warns against the greed of humankind, except not from the pollution angle this time. It's from more of a power play or more of a leadership perspective, and they warn how power without compassion leads to ruin. This film had a lot of really small but strong comedic moments for me. The two that come to mind are one, 𝙲𝙷𝙰𝚃𝙴 jumping off the cliff, and also there's a scene where the pirates and I believe it's 𝙲𝙰𝚃𝚃's boss, they have like a masculinity contest where they're just ripping their shirts open, which I find kind of hilarious in this film. There's one other scene I really love where in the very first like interaction where they're both conscious, I don't think he intended it to read this way, but from the English voice acting that was done, 𝙲𝙰𝚃 turns to Sheeta and goes, oh, the way you fell from the sky was like you're an angel or something. And with the way I thought about it in my head, it just seemed hilarious how much he seemed to be trying to flirt with her or riz her up unintentionally.
Well, thank goodness. You laughed like a regular person. The way you fell from the sky, I thought that maybe you were an angel or something.
I really enjoyed the setting. Despite it being a relatively normalish society and world, beyond the castle itself and the whimsy and magic that comes from just that alone. The town was such a close-knit and lovely community, like everyone knew each other and just seemed to have this undeniable level of like care and trust with each other and just kinship, which I find very beautiful in this film. So for our third film, we have Grave of the Fireflies, and it is both a really tragic but also beautiful and cinematic war film story. It is based on a semi-autobiographical experience of an author called Akiyuki Nausicaa, and the story follows very similarly to the one in the film, where his adoptive father passed away in the firebombing and his younger sister also passed away to malnutrition. Despite the really saddening themes in this film and the very harsh conditions they're under with the firebombing and the military, the two characters did really have some sweet moments in this film. 𝙲𝙷𝙰𝚃 had to grow up really fast when he ended up taking on the responsibility of taking care of his little sister, and in some of the moments where he realizes things are getting really hard, particularly for her, being so young in all of this, he really did his best to be uplifting and cheerful despite the horrifying things that were happening and going on around them. We see the little girl get really upset when she isn't able to visit her mother, and one of the things 𝙲𝙷𝙰𝚃 does is he attempts to distract her with like silly shenanigans, doing like loop-de-loops on the monkey bars. We see him on the beach making like a field trip day for her, and then at one point he finds like a small piano in his auntie's home and starts like singing songs with her, and those small moments are really sentimental and heartwarming in this movie. With how I'm gonna rank this, while it is a cinematic and beautiful and well-crafted film, it is not a world I would want to live in. And while this is sadly some people's real lives, it is not one that anyone should have to go through. For any of you that have made it this far, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to disappoint you by saying I'm actually gonna call it, or I might make a part 2 and a part 3 where I continue this. But my brain has fried from the first couple of movies, mostly because of how long they go for. They're like 2 hours long. It's a lot of time to condense and take notes, film, edit. So yeah, but in case I don't get around to this again, I will list off some of my personal faves. Kiki's Delivery Service, amazing. Porco Rosso is another one I really like. It's not necessarily whimsical because it is just based solely on the guy's curse. It's just one of my beloved classics for me. The ones that probably most people will agree with is like Spirited Away. That was like one of the first ever films I ever watched by Studio Ghibli. There's also Princess Mononoke and The Boy and the Heron. Those are probably my top ones. I'm really sad to say it is really difficult to sit through 24 films back to back to back to back to back, and some of them are like 2 hours long. It's really hard on my brain. I hope you can forgive me, but yeah, I'm calling it here for now, and I hopefully Sunday will pick this back up and finish it, but if not, I hope this was at least a little bit entertaining. So yeah, thank you. Bye.